Let me ask you a quick question before I begin. Have you ever been totally mistaken when you believed your life had settled into a single, final chapter? Because of what transpired that evening, my entire world was turned upside down in a way I could never have predicted. "You deserve to be happy too, Mom," my son replied simply. "Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, the storyteller on the Adult Women's Tales channel. Here, I'll share stories about love, conflicts, betrayal, and infidelity within families. These stories offer a deep look into relationships and the challenges families face. Stay tuned and explore with me. If you love emotional stories and want to uncover the hidden secrets in families, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our videos. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I grinned then. Tell me in the comments below, from which city are you observing? Wherever this story leads you, I love to hear it. Here's what actually transpired. 5 years ago, my spouse died, and the world simply dimmed. I have no theatrical manner of expressing it. I continued to smile in public. The sun continued to rise, and invoices continued to arrive in the mail. However, I had the impression that something essential had gone out, like a light switch that I couldn't locate. James, my kid, was the only thing that let me stay rooted in the haze of loss. His father passed away when he was 18. He was too young to be carrying that much, but he did. He became my anchor without my asking or complaining. In order to stay with me, he put off going to college for a year. He saw to it that I ate. When I couldn't sleep at night, he sat next to me, and together we gradually created this peaceful little life. It wasn't noisy, it wasn't thrilling. However, it was secure. It belonged to us. James began taking classes online before transferring to a nearby university, and I finally returned to work. Even after that, he continued to live at home, constantly claiming that it was less expensive this way. To be honest, I don't think one of us was prepared to be separated. Something shifted on a wet Thursday night, the kind when the wind causes the windows to creak and the house seems a bit too large and too silent. Wearing one of those old fleece wraps that had more memories than fabric left, I was barefoot in the kitchen. James entered as I was chopping apples for a late-night tea and the kettle was boiling. He appeared well-rested, but rested. His eyes were always a little like his father's, gentle and deep-set, even when he didn't speak much, not able to sleep. I gave him a piece of apple and asked. He leaned against the counter next to me and popped the apple into his mouth, saying, "Midterms. Additionally, you've been really silent recently." I kind of froze.
He probably didn't notice. Naturally, though, he did. James was always aware. "Just tired," I said. "You are aware of the situation." He looked at me with a tilt of his head. "Mom, you say that a lot." I chuckled softly. "You know, I'm 57. It's normal to feel exhausted." He didn't laugh, though. He put down his tea and gave me a direct look. "You deserve to be happy too, Mom," he replied gently. In a manner I didn't anticipate. The way he said it made my stomach turn. "Not pain. Don't be afraid. Just consciousness." He spoke steadily, yet softly. Unlike many of his customary remarks, he didn't say them casually or toss them over his shoulder. He meant it. I looked at him a while. Between us, the air felt strange. "Why did you say that?" I inquired. He gave a small shrug, but his gaze remained fixed. "Because you've given everyone else everything. For me, for Dad. And now I see you. You leave for work. You return home, and you act as though that's sufficient." "But Mom, I can see it in your eyes. You're alone." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. He was not mistaken. However, hearing it aloud from him, of all people, left me feeling exposed. I averted my gaze and busied myself cleaning the counter and rinsing the knife. It's simply life, my love. We all manage to survive. He approached me and put a kind touch on my shoulder. His touch was soothing, familiar, and warm. However, there was also something else, a level of intensity that surprised me. Getting by is no longer your only option. Once more, that quiet. My breath caught a little. I briefly lost sight of my tiny boy when I gazed up at him. A man caught my eye. Maybe he had matured too quickly, but this young man was kind and strong, and he was now standing in front of me with more concern and clarity than anyone had showed me in years. Despite my trembling voice, I finally responded, "I'm okay, James." "You're not," he answered, not in a mean or accusatory manner, but simply in the truth. "And that's also okay. But I want to be more than simply your kid. I want to be here for you, Mom. I want you to feel alive once more and to be seen, like the aroma of cinnamon from the tea that was still steeping." His remarks lingered in the room. I was at a loss for words. I was a mom. I was older. I was meant to be the one with strength. But a part of me yearned for attention, not as a mom, not as a widow, just as a woman, though. It had been years since she had felt really alive. We didn't say anything else that evening, at least not about that. He gave me a deep hug that lasted longer than usual, kissed my forehead, and went upstairs. I didn't sleep, though. With my heart pounding in my chest, I laid in bed and stared at the ceiling.
Something had been roused, and I had no idea where it might take me. Not because I was afraid, but I wanted to know for the first time in years. It felt different the next morning. There was a heaviness in the air, but I couldn't tell if it was the weather or the way James's words had gotten so ingrained in my bones. It might not have been hefty at all. It might have been something else, something with greater electricity. Even though I hardly read anymore, I went leisurely through my daily routine, making coffee, feeding the cat, and looking through the local newspaper. But his words were all I could think about. "You are also deserving of happiness." All night long, it kept repeating in my head, wriggling through long-stowed dreams, regrets, and memories. Being a mother has always been a passion of mine. I knew James would be everything to me the moment I held him in my arms, and that role became more intense after his father passed away. I put all of my effort into parenting him, keeping him safe, and maintaining our lives as normal and complete as I could. However, I believe that in doing so, I lost sight of the fact that I was still a woman with needs, desires, and feelings that weren't simply gone with age or loss. When James had late classes, it wasn't uncommon for him to skip breakfast. But I was strangely let down, as if I desired to see him. Just to see him, not to check if he ate anything or if he remembered to take his laptop, to once more experience the warmth of his presence, to inquire further, to comprehend his true meaning from last night. There was too much space for me to think in the house's silence. In the end, I refolded towels, rearranged the spice shelf, and tidied the already spotless kitchen. I occupied myself until I heard his door upstairs open. When he came down, it was about midday. He was dressed in a pair of joggers that hung somewhat low on his hips, and an old gray t-shirt that was a touch rumpled from sleep. My gaze lingered a little longer than I intended. "Good morning," he replied, grinning slowly and groggily. "Afternoon," I smiled back and corrected. Like the previous evening, he went to the refrigerator, took out a yogurt, and then leaned back against the counter. The ease with which we fell into this routine was both reassuring and a little unsettling at the same time. I contemplated whether or not to mention it. Perhaps it was all in my imagination. Perhaps I was exaggerating the situation. But before I could say anything, he gave me the same calm, composed gaze. Last night, I meant what I said. It was there. No accumulation. Don't act fake. My gut churned once more. Slowly, I nodded. "You did, I'm sure." He put down the yogurt, unopened. "It seems like you never let yourself feel anything for you, Mom, only for me, because you've been carrying so much for so long." I took a deep breath. "James, that's what mothers do." He took a small step forward. "You're more than just a mother, though. You're Mary." I got a chill from the way he pronounced my name. It's been years since I've heard it said that way. With purpose, has mass, with love. And Dad wasn't speaking to me like a son. I understood at that very moment, not only as a son anyhow. I was out of breath, flushed. I said, "I don't even know who Mary is anymore. I've spent so much time for other people. Then let's look for her once more." I laughed nervously at that. "You have a therapist's voice." He grinned. "Perhaps. Or perhaps I'm the only one who has seen the true you over the years, and I want her to return." I was unable to convey the way he looked at me. It wasn't improper. It wasn't hostile. Unquestionably, though, it was intimate. As if he could see through all of my masks and wasn't scared of what he discovered underneath. I turned aside because I needed some breathing room. "I don't understand what you're saying, James." He approached me from behind. "I'm expressing my concern for you. You are you, not simply because you are my mother. And I would like to help you feel again if you would allow me to. It's because you deserve it, not because you have to." I could feel him a few inches away. He had a quiet, gentle voice that was full of sincerity. I closed my eyes and allowed our silence to deepen. This had never been done before, a fine line between ease and perplexity. Oddly enough, though, I didn't desire to flee from it. Someone spotted me for the first time in a long time. Not the widow in mourning, not the mom, only me. I gently spun around to look at him. He was waiting, observing me with those soft eyes, not shoving, right there. I reached up and brushed a lock of hair off his forehead without giving it any thought. I kept my fingers there for too long. He did not retreat. With my heart racing, I took a step back. I murmured, almost in a whisper, "I need time." He said, "Take as much time as you need. I will not be leaving," and I had faith in him. I lay in bed again that night. But this time, regret wasn't running through my head. It was rife with inquiries, wishes, disclosures I wasn't prepared to make aloud. I had no idea what the future held. I wasn't scared to find out, though, for the first time. The days that followed were a haze of silent strain and unsaid words. James refrained from pushing. He never mentioned it again, but there was no denying that something had changed between us. In the way he gazed at me, it was evident, more carefully and longer than previously. It was in the once casual silences that suddenly felt profoundly meaningful. Above all, it was in how I began to view myself. I saw her for a moment, Mary in the mirror, not simply James's mother. Even when I wasn't going anywhere, I started wearing softer clothes, changing the way I styled my hair and applying a little lipstick, not for show, merely to experience anything, to experience life. James came home one afternoon while I was on the couch folding clothes. Dropping his suitcase at the entrance, he entered with that boyish smile that had a hint of maturity. He sat down next to me and held out one of the shirts I had just folded. He laughed and replied, "You still do it better than me." I looked at him. "That's because I've practiced for 57 years. I could feel the warmth of his flesh as he stretched his arm across the top of the couch and lay back against it. He took a moment to glance at me. Rather, he looked up at the ceiling as if he was struggling to find the appropriate words. Then, quietly, "Have you given what I said any more thought?" I continued to fold, cautiously and gently. I needed something to do with my hands. "Yes, I have." After a long pause, I added, "I've given it a lot of thought." He also chuckled. After putting a towel in the basket, I looked him in the eye. "I thought I had forgotten something, but you've reminded me." I was unaware of how much of myself I had suppressed. His smile was warm and filled with something I wasn't ready to identify. "I'm happy," he said. "I wish to assist you in discovering every aspect of her." I thought about the statement for hours. No one had ever spoken to me so tenderly, I believe. God rest his soul, not even his father. Yes, he did love me, but James saw me. None of the others ever did. It rained again that evening. It was quite calming to hear it pattering on the glass. When James walked in from his room, I was cuddled up with a throw blanket and an old novel, with a candle lighted in the living room. For a little moment, he watched me. May I take a seat?
Naturally, I said, pushing the cover aside to make room for him. He took a seat next to me, just as close as before. The silence, however, didn't feel uncomfortable this time. It was filled. During storms like this one, do you recall Dad reading by candlelight? Quietly, he asked. I grinned. He claimed that it gave him the impression that we were living in a different era. James gave a nod. He was a decent man. He was. After a while of sitting in that memory, James suddenly moved. His voice was now lower as he turned to face me and tucked one knee under him. He said, "You've always been strong. However, being strong does not imply that you must bear everything by yourself." My heart turned as I gazed at him. I have no idea how I can be anything else. Then perhaps, he murmured, it's time you learnt to let someone else bear some of it, even for a short while. Gently and slowly, his hand extended and settled on top of mine. I didn't pull away or move. My heartbeat accelerated, but not because I was afraid. It was something more profound, a bond, a desire I had spent years trying to suppress. I hooked my fingers through his as I flipped my hand over. It was familiar, yet completely unfamiliar. He regarded me as though I were the most valuable object he had ever laid eyes on. He called me Mary, and I shuddered just hearing my name. I admitted that I had no idea where this would go, and I'm afraid of what this might signify, not of you. He gave my hand a squeeze. Then we went slowly. I only ask that you be here with me, no pressure. We sat there, fingers entwined, hearts open, two people at the silent start of something real but unknown. Later, he led me to my room as the candle was going out. We lingered a bit too long in the corridor. He gently brushed my wayward hair away from my cheek and whispered, "Good night, Mom." After hesitating, I gave him a cheek kiss. "James, good night." I leaned against the door, shut it behind me, and allowed the silence to envelop me. I didn't feel alone for the first time in a long time. In the days that followed, I had the impression that I was walking cautiously into something I didn't entirely comprehend while keeping one foot firmly planted in the familiar. It wasn't scary, though. It was kind, considerate, and subtly strong. Neither James nor I made any declarations. There was no hurry, no categorization, and no dramatic admissions. Simply being there, just little moments that accumulated into something significant. We started sharing more than we had previously. He inquired about my early years and aspirations before to being a wife and mother. I hadn't been asked those questions in decades. He wanted to know what worried me as a teenager, what made me feel alive at 20, and what my favorite song was as a child. And I came to the realization that I had ceased sharing my stories at some point.
Or perhaps I had forgotten they were important at all. The electricity was out when we got home one evening after taking a lengthy walk through the neighborhood alone, while the sky was gradually growing darker. A transformer had been knocked out by a tree that had fallen close to the block's edge. Instead of moaning or reaching for their phones, James simply smiled. He nudged me and said, "Candlelight again." I poured each of us a glass of wine, just one, the nice red I'd been reserving for no special occasion, and led a few people around the house. With the gentle golden light flowing across the walls, we curled up on the couch as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He now gave me a different glance. Yes, with tiff, but with kindness, with purpose. And I couldn't help but stare back at him. He was no longer just my son. He had taken care of my heart when it had nothing left to give, and I had a great deal of faith in him.
With presence, tenderness, and patience, he had filled the void. With the wine easing the pressure in my chest, I muttered, I never thought I'd feel this again. This transparency, this sense that something is waiting for me. James put his hand lightly on my leg and turned to face me. Mom, it was always there, buried beneath years of caring for everyone else. It was simply quiet. My eyes began to sting. It's the kind of feeling you get when someone recognizes a part of you that you thought had vanished, not grief. I covered his hand with mine. Do you believe this to be incorrect? I inquired. The query had been nagging doubtfully at the periphery of my mind, that perhaps this is really a response to loneliness. He took a while to respond. He paused to consider the question. Finally, he added, I think what we feel is complicated. It's real, though it's also kind. Furthermore, it is based on years of love rather than desire or impulsivity, something more profound. His hand remained in mine, even if his voice shook a little. He went on, I know I want you to be happy, but I don't know what this becomes. Not out of obligation or sympathy, because you are worthy of being recognized and loved for who you are, not for what you do for other people. That's when I leaned into his shoulder. I was held by him, simply kept me. It had nothing to do with responses. The future wasn't the point. It was now or so. He didn't return to his room that evening. He remained by my side as we lay beneath the same throw blanket, the ceiling softly shadowed by the streaming candlelight. His heartbeat was steady and near to my chest. Several times before, I had dozed off next to my child. However, it wasn't a mother-son relationship in the conventional sense this time. After years of holding back, surviving, and enduring, it seemed as if two souls were finding solace in each other. The power was restored when I awoke in the wee hours of the morning. The world outside was starting to stir. The thermostat was clicking softly and the refrigerator was humming. However, we remained that way for a short while longer. James was still asleep when I looked at him. His face was serene in a way I hadn't seen since he was a youngster. I felt an odd serenity descend upon me as I ran my fingers through his hair. There was no need to define what we now possessed. It didn't neatly fall into one of the categories. However, it was grounded in reality, and that reality was therapeutic for us both. I experienced a sensation that I hadn't had in years when the sun rose and the room filled with brightness, complete, alive, observed, and I knew that we would face whatever came next when James woke up next to me, his eyes flashing open with a gentle smile. We did so because we wanted to, not because we had to. That's it for today's story. If you found it moving, don't forget to share the video with your friends and family.
I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.